Wonderful once again to chat with all of you all today. We have a super special guest, but before I introduce her, um, let me start with who are my partners in crime who are going to really get some fun stuff out of our guest today, and of course, chat about the seven sins of being a mother. We have Sakirti from Sipping Thoughts. We have Upasna from Gurgaon Moms. We have Siddhi from Mom Imperfecto. We have Andrea from Baby Chakra. And we have Tahira, who is, I don't know how to introduce you. Just say mother, author, filmmaker. Anything else you want to add to
Yeah,
that?
right now a light fixer. I'm just trying to fix the light. I was like, I have to get over with this before she comes on to me. I'm still rotating that goddamn light. So yeah, for today, it's the light fixer. The light.
Okay. I love that. I love how we keep changing our roles as per the day and the moment, right? So
All of us, right? All of us are at it. We are everything in one.
and we've learned to multitask it that way. Tahira, getting straight to dive in, loved the book. How did you do it? And tell us for everybody who's not read the book, tell us all about the book.
I think it was in a moment of insanity and being stupid or highly courageous that I wrote this book. You would agree with me. Like a lot of people have actually questioned me, what were you doing? What were you thinking when you wrote about all this? But like I said, I am a very unfiltered person, Mansi, and we are interacting. We've interacted many times before and again, but that's how I come across, and it's just like I hope opened my heart into my book, which has got, yes, a lot of humor, a lot of blasphemy, a lot of sex. And why not? It's basically, I have tried to humanize mothers who are kept at this pedestal of perfection, of holier than thou, and all of that, which is so pious and beautiful. I mean, so we could be all of that, but there's so much more to us, and we could be equally wanting of so many desires that we have, so many wants that we have. So I have tried to, perhaps in my own way, ease out the pressure in the most fun, quirky way. That's how I love to write. And yeah, there's a whole lot of bathroom stories and bedroom stories also. Like I said, moment of insanity. But it has made it to the book. You guys can go have fun at my cost, is what I can say.
I've had full if I was to say it in like a filmy style, I've had full paisa vasool for both your books. It is like fully paisa vasool because you literally you really have no filter, yeah. But it's a lot of fun to read, and I must say that both the books, ऐसा ही लगा that I mean, you feel like it was somewhere me in that moment. I don't know why, but it was really very endearing. Tell me, in the book you said, in one of the first few chapters, you said, proving to be the worst mother. Like, सच्ची में you thought that मतलब you will be the worst mother के मतलब did you think of what were your perceptions of अच्छा ये bucket अच्छी माँ का है ये bucket not so good mother और मैं इसी में fit होंगी.
I just feel there are no more boxes for bad moms, you know. So I just thought in my own head and in my own learning of many, many things and of motherhood, especially, I realized that there is a generic box. Ek to women are as it is, put in boxes. And when it comes to mothers, the compartment is further, it's further sort of constricted, and it's very, very rigid. And so, based on my ancestors, based on my mother's learning, based on the lovely, interesting books that I read, how to be a perfect mom, how to feed, how to do this, and how to do that. I had so much going on in my head, and my real life was anything but that. I was not calm. No matter how much I would meditate, I would still feel like screaming. I thought I'm losing out on life. I'm losing out on time. Where are my career goals? Why am the only one responsible for a whole lot of things? Why are the expectations from me? Why isn't my birth normal birth because it was not vaginal? So all these things, I think it just added up, and that box, I just was outside of that box. And so I thought that maybe that's being a bad mother. That's why I said I thought I'm the worst mother. But I realized being outside the box means creating your own box and creating your own journey. And all of us have done that. And it's about, I don't think there is anything known as a bad mother. So I have sort of told that in my chapter because I felt that way. Um, and like I also mentioned that like most like how any other Indian girl would probably think, anything that gives her happiness she feels guilty about it, and I was no different. So anything that would give me pleasure, give me happiness, usi waqt, shit, am I doing the right thing? Where's my child? Where's the baby monitor? Where's this? Whether I'm on the treadmill, whether I'm trying to make a pitch, whether I'm trying to work, or even I'm breastfeeding, I was just, or not breastfeeding, or on a top or a top feed, I was just guilty all the time. And I did not communicate much. But later on, I realized, once I opened up my life for myself, I realized that this is a feeling which is not oblivious to a whole lot of mothers. So we go through all kinds of shit. It's about owning your shit and putting your shit on a pedestal. ये मेरा shit है, ये बहुत सही shit है. तुम बाहर में जाओ. So
100%, dude, 100%. I always, and we always say this on Kid Stop Rest, right? You are the best mother your child can ever have, and you define what that best is, right? Because, like you said, you created your own box, which is exactly how it should be.
yeah.
And tell me, in a world full of comparisons, right, where you are, मतलब हम खुद अपने आप को, like we're trying to perfect ourselves in many ways. How do you define perfect in terms of children, right? Because everybody wants to have this perfect child, and somewhere it stems from, am I perfect? Am I average? Am I above average? So when you are dealing with so many complexities, how do you take responsibility of two other people?
To creating a perfect child, oh my god, I'm far from it. I think me and my kids are the most blasphemous lots. I'm going to share a small incident. So when you're small, when the kids are just learning how to speak, they twist and they sort of turn words around. So if you've said, I can say stuff, right? Like, listen, if you're covering my book, then you might as well. These are the contents. So so there are a lot of women who probably over their conversations they might have used the word duck, muck, luck, or whatsoever, and the child then twists it around and makes it into a blasphemous word. But the mom that I am, I actually use that word, not knowing that my child is around, and he was obsessed with the word, and he just kept going fuck 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 fuck. Entire day he was like a duck who was just saying fuck. So, and then my mother, who was teaching, she was the head of the English department, so she came home and she's trying to embrace her only grandchild, and she was expecting Shakespeare जैसे words निकलेंगे मेरे grand बच्चे के मुंह से या फिर Wordsworth आएगा, but he goes and he hugs his nani and says nani fuck. So these are my children. I think he was about like 14, 15 months old. This is not to say that I'm a bad parent, I'm teaching cuss words, but I happened to speak to someone, and my son happened to hear it, and then he just multiplied. The word just multiplied. But I've also gone in to say how I reacted for the first time. I was angry, I was livid, I was blasphemous, and that little monster, it became a feeding mechanism for him. The more upset I was, the more he would repeat. And that's when my parenting skills kicked in. I understood my own relationship with my son. I was like, the more I react, he feels that this is something to play around with. And so my way of dealing was eventually become indifferent. And so then the word just it just wore off. But that's the beauty about our journeys as mothers, or what I've written in the book. It's very individual. And there's so many books. This book is nothing to do with being the perfect mother, or how to feed, or how to do this, or how to do that. You've read it. It's not a guide at all. If at all, it's just owning up to the shit that you've gone through. How much of shit and fuck I've said. I'm so sorry, girls. But I'm a nice person.
Yeah, guys, I can vouch for it. She's great. She only says words which your child should not use, like we all do.
Yeah.
We all do that. But tell me, I want to know about uh, about two or three things or even more. I'm sure in your case, there must be like a lot more, but things that you wrote, deleted, and then you're like, dude, what? You know, what? I
Mansi, do you think मैंने delete किया है कुछ? I really wish I would have deleted, from leaking breasts to sexapades and my Bangkok stories, and I don't know what. Like I said, I wish I had deleted in retrospect because there are funny memes going around. So I did not expect that.
arrived. You arrived.
What
Like
a
even
ride.
says the memes.
Tricky stuff.
No,
Like people who have
seriously.
a sense of humor will make fun of it. They will understand, but there is a whole lot who just want controversy. So
Yeah. No, but tell me in retrospect, what were the ones that you really put a filter on? Tell me at least one of them. Or you feel like, yeah, shit, ये वाला नहीं लिखना चाहिए था.
yeah, I mean, I did not, it took a whole lot, and I'm not going to get too much into the discussion for that particular topic because it's mentioned enough in the book, and it's something which is very, very hurtful. I spoke about bullying and about a very tough phase of my life when I was a kid. And so once I wrote it, the intention behind writing was to help others, very honestly, because I really wish somebody had written it for me, to save myself of the guilt and the pressure that I had for myself. I was very unforgiving towards myself. For the longest time, I held myself responsible for a whole lot of things that were happening to me, which apparently was not my fault. And I really wish somebody had written about it, accessible, easily accessible, so that so it was with that intention I wrote. I deleted that chapter, I wrote it again, I put it in my trash can, I removed from that, put it up again, shared with my publisher. She loved it, not for anything else, but for the sake of it's adding value. And it's a very tough, very, 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 very tough chapter to write and admit. So I have had multiple calls. That was the only one where I really didn't want to put it in the book because that's a very harsh aspect to my life, which is very hurtful, like I said. So that particular chapter, I have sort of really gone to and fro, but rest of it. I was pretty much unfiltered, and that's the way I like to write things. And yeah,
Yeah. And I but by the way, I think you're absolutely right. I love the chapter because I feel there isn't so much that's spoken about it. Everybody is very preachy and pedantic in talking about how you should manage cyberbullying or what's the right way to do it, but nobody really says on their experience of cyberbullying. So I'm so glad. I mean, bullying. Sorry, not cyberbullying, but how people should actually deal with it. And you shared that experience. So I'm glad that you did. Also, tell me, guilt is something that's, we all say as moms that we don't feel guilty. But there was a part where you were with your kids, but you were, and it's so normal, right? Like you mentioned earlier, that I was only thinking that why am I solely responsible? And then there was a phase where you were not solely responsible and you were going out to be yourself. Is it normal to compare in a marriage or in parenting, compare yourself with your partner and manage that guilt as well when you kind of are equal? Is it normal to compare with your partner?
I mean, so the roles and the duties one does. That's what you're saying. That is it okay to compare? Like I didn't get
No,
that.
not the roles, just the response. Yeah, the roles and responsibilities. Is it okay to compare? And also the success, right? You could have been at the same space, but you are still managing a large part. You were the primary caretaker. So does it affect?
I just wish we set a different precedent for the generations to come, and there was a different precedent set for us. And in my home, very honestly speaking, I come from a very progressive, educated family, nuclear family. I always saw my parents working, both of them, middle class family. They both needed to work to make the ends meet and to make enough, like I said in my previous book, to make it to once in a month to a film at a multiplex, and reward ourselves with a few dinners once or twice a month. So I've always seen my father bring in the vegetables and my mother sort of making the. So I've seen the roles very, very divided. Uh, but not 50-50%. It was
Yeah.
always skewed. And so I had these undue expectations of my mother, and I would actually compare her with the rest of the mothers, where everybody had perfect tiffins and everything coming in for them when they used to go to school, and I just probably had a banana or a toast or something, and that's enough to probably for a snack. But I was always in this comparison zone, and I was very unforgiving towards her. But later on, I realized that this is she wanted to do this, and she deserves to do this, and she's not answerable to anyone. The idea is to to have a happy home and have the roles divided. But yet, like I said, even though the roles were divided, it was skewed. So this was the precedent set for me. And so I very happily took on to many roles. And so the word that you used in the beginning of this introduction of the session was multitasking. And I really have a huge problem with the word multitasking, because I'm just so done with it, Mansi, कि मुझे वो खिताब चाहिए ही नहीं है, मुझे ये award चाहिए ही नहीं है multitasker का. I don't want anybody to appreciate me, call me evil, or call me this woman who doesn't like to do so many things, but I am okay with it. I do not consider being a multitasker as a compliment, because I end up doing 40 million other things, whereas the other gender, and I'm not particularly talking about my partner, I'm not talking about my relationship, I'm talking about a generic relationship in in a patriarchal society, where the men, they say, मैं इतना ही कर पाऊंगा, मैं बहुत focused हूँ, and then we appreciate him for just doing that one thing, and then we appreciate women for being multitaskers and not the other way around. So I think there are different and precedents which are set for us, and we need to change it. So I'm very vocal about things that I want to do. I can do many, but today I choose to sort of take a step back, and let other people in my household contribute. I haven't reached a 50-50%. Very honestly speaking, it's not 50-50%. It is still 80 and 20%, 70 and 30%, but I'm working towards it. And I really am working towards it. And I really want to make sure that the next generation sort of sees it as the roles are not gender specific. It should not be ye to boys karte hain aur ye to girls karte hain, which is still there in our generation, I feel.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, like I would love for, like how we had this session with moms. I really, and it's so, you all are so popular. You all are doing such great job. It's almost cathartic and counseling at many levels for many followers. I really wish there's something like for dads too. Why aren't they such public forums, and why aren't fathers giving such interviews, and why isn't that happening?
Which is so amazing that you say that, because a lot of the dads on Kidstropics feel very left out, because a lot of the jokes are on moms. So we've kind of, we actually have tried to garner that. And I must say that when I interview a lot of the dads, the one question that I absolutely get sadistic pleasure asking is, so how do you strike the balance between work and life? I don't know.
Nice one.
I asked that question.
इंटरव्यू में आपको पूछा नहीं कि आपके घर पे बच्चा है, आपको उसको टेक केयर करना है. They never asked these questions.
Yeah. Okay. Before the last question, before I pass on the baton to Siddhi, tell me, you've written 7 sins. If you were to add 3 more, what would those be?
Oh gosh, I think I have covered a lot. I've covered infidelity, indiscretion. I have covered sex. I have covered so much. But I would love for women to add on to their own sins and have their own stories to tell. So these were my sins, and I would love to hear what people have to say. So yeah.
Okay, super. Siddhi, over to you.
Hi, Tahira. I'm Siddhi from Mom Imperfecto. So thank you so much for this very confessional book, where you have talked about very unspoken and taboo topics, which I think really needed to be talked about. So my first question to you is that, moms are always constantly on this guilt trip. And even in this book, you have made a lot of confessions, which are really real and unfiltered, like you are saying. So how do you feel we moms can, offload ourselves from this pressure and of this guilt? How do you feel we can do it as mothers?
No, I just, by humanizing our feelings, I think by humanizing that maybe I do not want to, have answers to the million questions that my kids have. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a bad mom. It just could mean I need my space. It's just to humanize your own emotions. At times you feel like screaming, and that's okay. At times you choose to have kids, and some people choose not to have kids, and that's okay. I think the idea is to be compassionate to a level of being very inclusive of individual choices. And no two mothers are the same. So I have a huge problem with all these self-help books where they actually put. So yesterday I was having a conversation with someone, and the moderator, she was telling me that she came across a book and she just delivered a child, and then she ordered this fancy book from US. It took a whole lot of money and many days for it to arrive. And the moment she opened the first page, it said that if you have had a normal vaginal birth, this book is for you, and therefore you cut off the audience. She was like, I just shut the book. But what are these stereotypes that are being created at a global level? I have a huge problem where you are trying to replicate, prototype women and mothers specifically. So this book, my book, is anything to do with. It has got nothing to do with the perfect parenting skill. If at all, it's got to do with owning up to the million feelings that we get, which necessarily are not considered good. They're considered as a sin, but nonetheless, we do feel that, and that's just normal. If you're feeling it, it's a human emotion. If it's a human emotion, there's nothing wrong with it. Humans ko yoga na.
Yeah.
So I really wish that this book can ease off the pressure on many women and men.
Also, I feel that, being honest comes at a price. It's not easy talking about your thoughts and being very vocal, especially in the Indian context, in the Indian society that we live in. For example, taking permission from your husband is considered a disrespect. So, women are always scrutinized and judged for their behavior and for their actions. How do you think this mindset can be changed?
Yeah, I just wrote a piece
I read that. That was really, really nice.
Yeah, thank you. So I wrote a piece for a leading publication. It was to do with this only. It's about we don't need to seek permission from anyone, and the partners giving permission doesn't mean they're nice. It's very human, and it's absolutely a necessity for your partner to empathize with you, and that doesn't mean that the person has the liberty to deny you permissions or times. You've not married a teacher. You've not married. You've married a partner, and partner, by virtue of the definition of the word, is part of your life, not your entire life. Firstly, and secondly, an equal. So I just feel that we need to first put ourselves on the pedestal of equality. It is we feel that we have lucked it out. I have heard many women. It's because it's a very normal it's a very normal way of talking. I've heard a lot of women talking that I totally lucked out. Yeah, my husband hasn't put any restraints on me. I can go for my girls' night out. What do you mean lucked out? I mean to say you are an adult. The law gives you the permission to vote and to marry and to drive and to drink, but to take decisions for your life, you need to luck out. So I have a huge problem with that, and so
because we've been born and brought up with that thinking, and that thing has been instilled in us.
Yes.
To take permission from the man of the house, and
absolutely,
because we've been born and brought up that way. So but I think that thinking needs to change.
I so agree too, Siddhi. And the fact that we're talking about it, we're writing about it, we are feeling strongly about it, perhaps this will bring about a change.
I hope so too. Okay, so I'm stating a statement, and I want you to, give me your thought on it. To be a successful mother or to be a successful couple, a woman has to compromise.
No.
It's a statement. So I want your take on it.
What do you want me to say?
Does that happen? Have you ever faced it where you feel, okay, I have to be home for my child?
At a very feminist level, I would say a big no. But if there's a reality check, this is what is happening around. This is where, to avoid ego clashes, to avoid women, and I'm again not talking about my life specifically, I'm talking about women in general, society, a patriarchal society. So if you want a successful home or harmony at home, there is a usual expectation of one person to take a back seat, and more often than not, it's the woman. But I really wish that this changes, because ultimately it's the dreams of one gender are being compromised. The happiness of one gender is being compromised, and nobody's going to achieve anything out of that. We all know how our sustainable goals that we are working towards 2030, even that is inclusive of women and equality and their happiness. And it is a huge role to play in the success of a nation and its economy and its happiness. So I'm talking about a macro level. So, but it all starts at a very micro level. So yes, we need to change this. And this statement, it's very it annoys you, but at the same time, it's something that it's the truth. But I really wish this changes.
Yes. So you are an author, you are a filmmaker, dabbling a lot of roles. What do you think is the biggest challenge for you as a working mother, as a working person?
Many, yeah. I mean, to say, to begin with, at home, yeah. I'm a hands-on mom in terms of, I don't believe in helicopter parenting, but I do like to be involved. I might not know which is the perfect uniform to wear the next day. The uniforms keep rotating for some reason. Pata nahi ek standard kyun nahi hai. It's a problem for me. And so I have my lovely friends who seek out for me, and I'm just so blessed to have these WhatsApp groups, because then they keep posting.
They are a savior.
They are a savior. So I'm very happy. And a lot of my friends know that I'm very bad when it comes to this. But I agree that's something which I'm not good at. But I would rather invest my energies, because I have only that much. So I would rather invest my energies on a Sunday with them and give them exclusive 4, 5, 6 hours of the entire day with them.
It makes more
where
sense.
I have opened up my communications, I have gathered up enough energy over the week, and I'm really looking forward to spending time with them. So things have really changed for me, and I've realized that a happy mom means a happy kid. And a happy communication between the two. But what does it take to become a happy mother? Is it just a role of a mother? For me, it doesn't hold true. I have some aspirations. I'm very ambitious when it comes to my work. I love writing. I love making films, and that's what makes me happy. And today, my kids see that passion, and they take joy in that. So yeah, I involve them in the process. So I just made a film. So I involved them in the process of casting. So we had these auditions folders. So like I said, I might not know the uniform they're wearing the next day, but I involved them in my life. And so they were a part of auditions, and they were a part of shortlisting that. So at their own age, they are getting exposed to a woman.
And that's how they will be able to understand your work also,
Yeah,
and they'll be able to relate to it.
Or even if they don't like my work, even if at least they're getting exposed to a woman who's working for her dreams. And it's for my daughter and my son. So they will now appreciate, my daughter will appreciate that women can have aspirations, and my son will appreciate that maybe his partner will also have his aspirations, or might not, or might as well, but he will be open towards it. So yeah.
So thank you so much. And I really want to, appreciate this book. I enjoyed reading it. It's commendable that you have been so honest throughout. I want every woman to read this book, because it's so important for each woman to be honest to themselves. They should be able to speak for themselves. And I think that's what you've done with this book. So thank you so much, Tahira. And over to you, Upasna.
Thank you, Siddhi. Hi, Tahira.
Hi,
I absolutely loved the book, as I loved your previous one as well. And just a few questions. So growing up, we had only 2 genders, but now there are different, pronouns also. Have you addressed this with your children, and what would be your advice to parents to address it?
I have actually. I very much have. And And thanks to my boy, because the kind of films he's doing, I have preponed the process of exposure towards towards um, towards having empathy at an earlier age, rather than waiting it out for them to be teenagers. So my daughter is 7 and my son is 9. He's going to turn 10 in a few days. So they do know about definitely a bit about the LGBTQ plus community. They do understand that there's homosexuality. I have recently introduced to them to the concept of transsexuals, but it's a very huge field which requires a lot of sensitivity at our own part. So we need to do a whole lot of learning for us to even help our kids understand. But my intention of making them exposed to these topics, or to the topic of sexuality, in terms of, so for them, they're 7 and 9. So
Right.
at least in my head, I don't think they know how sex culminates or how that happens. But for them, it's about having feelings. So if I've introduced them to the concept of homosexuality, it's about a boy liking a boy, or a girl liking a girl. So like having the heart, which can actually also beat for the same gender. So my idea was also for them to sort of understand, and to have a lot of empathy. And also tomorrow, I don't know their inclinations. I don't know, but at the same time, I don't want them to feel that they don't have some communication with their parents. And I have seen people where communication lines are not open, and there is confusion at the parents' part, but the kids are absolutely sure. When the lines are not open, when the understanding is not there, it really leads to a lot of anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. There's so much that happens, and so we need to address it at an early age. So yes, I have introduced them to the LGBTQ plus community, but at a level of where they understand that you can have feelings for other people irrespective of their gender. And that's what we also need to learn. Now, I don't know, why do we need to place people in certain genders to have emotions and feelings for those people? So I think I have learned a lot, and in the process I'm making the kids learn too.
As they say, all love is good love.
All love is good love. Yes.
So I particularly love this line, Tahira, that you said. Like I said, in the self-esteem department, we women are a constant work in progress.
Yeah, man.
So constant. My children are grown up, but I still have mom guilt. What would you give as advice to people, like at Gurgaon Moms, we're always talking about mom guilt, to overcome mom guilt?
I think it's like I just said a bit earlier, is to sort of humanize these feelings, to sort of address them and make them very normal. I mean, to say a mother can have sexual feelings. A mother can have she might want to scream, and might not want to be this perfect patient mother all the time. All this makes us, and if this is what makes us, and this is what makes the human emotions, it can't be wrong. So I feel that we just need to know that all the tick marks that have been put, and all the boxes that have been created to perfect moms, and at times we feel our emotions do not fit that box or do not fit that prototype, and then we start considering ourselves as bad moms. We just need to tell ourselves this is an individual journey. It is not a journey based, it's not going to be a replica on all the perfect books or the movies that I have watched. This is my journey and I own it. It's my beautiful journey with my child, and it will require a whole lot of learning, but I'm ready to learn and explore and falter and fail and succeed and run. But it's my journey, let me own it. So yeah.
Agreed, totally agree. Tahira, what's the best thing your children have taught you via bathroom notes or otherwise. I love that bathroom notes.
Yeah, they have continued for a very long time. I was like, the 10 minutes that I go into the bathroom, I have everything, a snowman coming in. What are you doing coming in? What do you think I'm doing in the washroom? So, yes, I've got all those notes. But one thing that I've learned from them is to be blasphemous, because they say what they feel. But the only thing is they have their cute looks, which works for them. I'm still working on that department.
Please look at your hair.
Yeah, but no, so I think they get they get away with everything, and I really wish to be in that zone too, because I also like to say whatever is there in my heart. But it's something I really appreciate. They are I think that's with, and it's just not with my kids, it's just with the species with that kids are. They're very, very unfiltered, and they're very true, and they're very honest, and I love that about them. They have so many questions, and when we grow up, we put those questions into appropriate questions and inappropriate questions. Why is that man talking like that? You only said we should not talk like that, and suddenly I'm shushing them that no, you can't say that to strangers. But why not, if this is what I'm teaching them? So I think it's just so lovely to learn from them, especially like I said, they wear their heart on the sleeve, which is so cool. I just love that.
It's so cool, and it's so admirable, really, for children.
Yeah.
So, Tahira, the past 2 years, the pandemic has been a great educator, a leveler. It's taught us many things. What's the one lesson you've taken away from it?
I think it's been.
I know there are many. There are
many learnings. I have honestly started enjoying my time out with my kids even more. So at times, when you also, we are complex human beings, so once you're working, you really get into that zone also, and you think, I'm a professional, and okay, fine, I'll work, I'll spend some time with my kids, but this is what I love doing. And at times you put that on the back burner, and due to the pandemic, all of us were just confined within our own homes, and I got to really experience. I've always had a beautiful relationship with my kids, but this time round it was a longer one. And people might say, that, oh God, it's testing your patience and all of that. It does. But I just realized during the pandemic that I genuinely enjoy talking to them without any agenda, because we usually have agendas. We also want to let go of a guilt. Na, humne itna kaam kiya, I wasn't home. Acha bache, how was your day? Who's your best friend? What's your best subject? These are all agendas. These are all agenda driven questions, which we do which ways. But because of the pandemic, I had a lot of questions or a lot of conversations which just did not have any agenda, and it was very fluid. And I loved that about the pandemic. And it was a great learning to actually have a relationship with your children without any agenda also.
That's lovely, Tahira, lovely. So your book is entitled The 7 Sins of Being a Mother. Gluttony is one of the sins.
Yeah.
One of the 7 sins. So what's your guilty pleasure in the food department?
Yeah, I think I've got all sweet teeth.
Okay.
Not a sweet tooth. I love food.
I'm with you.
Yeah, man. It's so difficult to lose. I've started working out, but I'm not able to curb but this time round, if I really, I'm genuinely want to become fitter than what I was before, because in the pandemic, I just, the past 2 years, I've actually just been working. I've not worked out as much, and it was an alibi, very honestly speaking. Oh, I have to go for a dub. Oh, I have a meeting. I can't work out. Aisa nahi hota hai. You have to take out time for yourself, for your own physical health also, which I wasn't, and lately have started. Though I have not been able to curb my carbs or whatever proteins or whatever nonsense that is, because I've had a very love and hate relationship with food, about which I mentioned in my first book too.
Yes.
I don't want to go through that route again. So, once you've been on that route, you are exposed to that. So it's again work in progress, because you are bound to go incline yourself towards, oh, I'm working out so much, let me not eat. It's a very deliberate attempt for me to remind myself I am going to eat. I'm not going to give up on food. I'm going to be aware of what I'm eating, but I'm not going to give up on food because it had costed me my happiness. It had costed me my health. It had costed me my physical and mental health as well. And I really wish the teenagers, actually, I don't know if they're teenagers on this platform, will they be listening to it? I really, really, for all the teenage girls to know that it is very, very important to respect your body, mental and physical, and to respect food. It is fuel for our body, and it's not something that is just there to put on weight. And to have acceptance for all sorts of figures and all sorts of weight and all sorts of body types. So yeah, I've come a long way, and I have to keep reminding myself. So it's a continuous work in progress, like we said.
That's wonderful that you're conscious of it, Tahira. Thank you so much for answering my questions. And over to you, Andrea, now from Baby Chakra.
Hi, Tahira. This is Andrea from Baby Chakra.
Hi, Andrea.
So the very first question, while reading your book is, how did you come up with the title of the book? And what is the exact story behind it?
So this, I would love to give the credit to Chiki and yeah, a little bit to myself. So I keep writing. So the first book actually happened like that. I wrote a piece. She loved it, and she was like, she came up with 12 commandments of being a woman, and then the 12 commandments I started writing and forming. And this time around, I again wrote something, and it just didn't feel like. Whatever I was writing, it didn't feel like that I will get a medal for it. The so-called medal that we all await for. Like I mentioned in my book also, nobody actually physically comes and gives you a trophy if you've had a vaginal birth. And nobody hangs you if you've had a cesarean. But there is this unsaid pressure. There is this constant murmuring, constant chatter which is there, which celebrates vaginal birth. So, everything that I was writing in the book, I realized मुझे तो कहीं से किसी का medal मिलने तो वाला नहीं है. So might as well call this the sins. And if that's what the world perceives it. And perhaps after reading this book, they will understand that these are not sins. This is something that we feel, we go through, but it's tongue-in-cheek humor. And I've just tried to play along.
That was a great answer. On that note, the very second question which comes to my mind is, were there any instances in the society where, they have put your morale down? And how did you handle it? I mean, they've tried to put your morale down on your parenting journey.
Oh, yeah, many. Many. So, like I said, the vaginal birth. And so I had my relatives coming in, and they were telling my parents, oh, koi baat nahi, bacha healthy hai, mummy healthy hai. I was listening to all of this. Ki, oh, koi baat nahi. How does this answer even? How is this a congratulatory message? So so koi baat nahi. It's like I have committed a mistake or a blunder. And I had a 12-hour long labor, and I had an emergency C-sec. But why am I even giving an explanation? There are a lot of women who go for elective cesarean, operation or from means to sort of deliver a baby, and that's fine too. What is koi baat nahi? Then I have also. I had gone to a restaurant, and I've mentioned about it in the book. This was my first child, and I had just delivered, and nobody is used to being a mom. Hello, I don't know why are these expectations ki by now since you've delivered this baby, you become this ma jiske Karan Arjun aayenge, like somehow we are born to be moms. No, it's a learning process. This baby has come in my life, and I don't even know what am I supposed to do with it. I'm just being very honest with my motherly emotions. Just didn't come for me instantly. For some people it might, but for me it took time, so I had to figure out what is my life with this little tiny being whom I'm supposed to nurture and care for. So it was 3 months into feeding the baby, and my friends had kept a lunch out, and I was very excited. Finally life is turning to normal, and I go to this restaurant. My baby sleeps throughout the lunch in his pram, and I have this lovely conversation, and then we just pay a bill and we head to the elevator, and I'm about to go, and that's when the waiter comes running, and he puts his foot inside the elevator door and he says, madam, and कह रहा है मैं बिल तो दे दिया है, बैग भी मेरे पास है, मैडम आप अपना बच्चा भूल गए हैं. And so I felt I want to laugh, like it was a funny thing if you have
as a new parent. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's okay, right? But the looks that I got in the elevator, I really wished, I could disappear, because judging looks, piercing looks, like proclaiming that I am a bad mother, I'm the worst mother, because this is what I could see. But had a father forgotten, there would have been a chuckle, a snigger, a kuch nahi hota, pat on the shoulder, encouraging, at least you got your baby out. All of that would have gone to the man. But to women, it was just cold stares. So I felt miserable at that point of time. It was nothing funny. It's only funny in the hindsight and retrospect. But at that time, there was no encouragement. Nobody told me it's okay. I just did not get it's okay from anyone. On many things. When I was overweight or when I gained weight, I didn't get it's okay. I was getting it from my doctor also and from people. Oh, itna weight gain karne ki kya zarurat hai? You become 20 kilos. Then I started working out. I didn't get it. It's okay. I got, you should be with your son. Why are you working out 2 hours in the gym? Nobody said it's okay. I could not exclusively breastfeed because I could not make that much of milk. And so I never got it's okay. All that I got was it'll hamper your child's growth. And I was hiding my top feeds. I was not telling people I'm giving a top feed to my child at night. But nobody said it's okay on so many things. I was just guilty most of the time. So I really wish people are there in the environment. And this is not just your parents, just society at large. And they should learn to say it's okay to the woman also, to the mother also. So, yeah.
It was great listening to you. Over to Sukirti.
Awesome book. As an older mother, I laughed, I think, the whole way through. I think especially about the nanny and the nanny-dom or the nanny-doom, because I think we can also relate to it. I mean, I think I'm more possessive over my nanny than anything else. I don't even want anybody to even see her. But truthfully, another question, especially as we've been talking, I just went to a birthday party and there were 40 women and one poor dad came. And yes, he was interacting with the other dad who was the father, but they were the only 2 men. So are we even creating spaces where they feel comfortable? Because I was her cousin, but none of the other women even tried to make him comfortable, figure it out, converse with him. He was like pretty much sitting lonely in the corner.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that, but that's right. I think the onus lies on us to make it a conducive environment for the fathers also to take up the role of a primary caretaker or a caregiver. It's for us to make a conducive environment. And you're so right. So yesterday I had this event, and I just thought, by virtue of the book's title and how it is, I thought the event had members who are members signing up and my guest list. So there was a few random people whom I did not know, but they were members of that particular club. And so I see a house full of women, but there was only this one man. And I was like, I actually doubted that man's intent, in the sense, have you come to the wrong screening? Are you in the wrong session? He was like, no. I was like, are you forced into it? Somebody has paid you. I was like, why are you here? He was like, no, my girlfriend in Delhi, she really wanted me to attend this. And I was like, that's amazing. And he was like, is there any tip you would want to give? I was like, if at all, you should be giving tips to us, because you're the one who's sitting here listening to a conversation about women. And I really wish we had made the environment more conducive for more men to come in, rather than me questioning, Ki tum yahan par kar kya rahe ho? So you're right. I mean, to say that's totally onto us to sort of make it comfortable for the fathers to come and be a part of the child's life.
No, I was also wondering, because I said it's so tough, because I know you've talked about 7 sins of being a mother, but I think we definitely need one on fatherhood. And that's such an important one, because many of them want to take a role, but when they come into the space, and I've seen that even in school, it's like, 30 school moms and 2 dads, you know.
I totally agree, and that's also yeah, no, I totally agree. I have seen that too. If it's a WhatsApp group of 30 moms or 35 moms, there's this one solo dad who's really trying, and most of the times he doesn't even speak. Kya bole, the other women are talking, you know. I totally agree, and I thank you for giving me an idea for my next book.
I was hoping because I said you've done sins, you've done commandments. Now we need something,
No,
you know, for the men too.
yeah, why not? Absolutely, I totally like it.
And I want to talk about this because this is something that you bring up and you're very honest about sex and hormones, especially in pregnancy. And this whole idea of the Sati Savitri image. And you know that Sati Savitri image is not even in pregnancy, it's also in motherhood. How do we change that? That women
Yeah,
are
by
people too.
Yeah, by absolutely addressing the issue. I mean to say, I don't know, why do they feel that once you become a mom, you do not crave for sex, or once you become a mom, you don't do you don't feel anger. And so all the emotions that constitute a human being, suddenly when one becomes a mother, that person is supposed to be devoid of those emotions.
I know.
It's something very silly. A mother continues to be a mother also because she's a woman, and also she's been a girl, and also she experiences the same emotions as the other gender. I think it's very important for the world to know that this title of being pious and being such a lovely mother, homemaker, we could be all of that, but you really don't have to assign values to it. You don't have to assign words to it. It's like again, like holier than thou, or she doesn't get angry at all, she's such a great
She's so
multitasker,
perfect.
perfect, she puts her kids first. These are just precious. None of us want to do that. Honestly, all of us want to live a life for ourselves first. It's just that we are either scared, or there are wrong precedents being set for us. We're too scared to take the first little step, because there's so much at stake. So these are just pressures onto us, and I think a happy mother or a happy individual is one who has some dreams, some aspirations for themselves. Not necessarily big dreams, becoming a CEO, becoming a pilot, becoming this and becoming that. It could be, I want to have a day out and I want to watch a movie all alone by myself. And that's a small little dream I have for myself. I should be able to take that decision. I should be able to have an environment that encourages me to think about myself and my dreams and my aspirations and my happiness also. Even in a flight, the flight attendant tells you to put on a mask for yourself first and then put it for your child. Even if it's your child, you're supposed to put it on yourself. That's the only way you can help out other people, if you help yourself. So I've learned it the long way. I'm still learning because I still feel guilty. Like I said, I'm still that person who has 5 sources of happiness which are completely selfish. Then I start feeling guilty, that am I doing the right thing also? I'm not including my kids. I'm not including my husband. I'm not including my parents. I'm not. So it's still working on process, because now there's awareness and I tell myself to shut up. It's okay. Earlier on, I did not do that. So, like I said, yeah, we all are work in progress, but at least
but
the awareness is there.
No, that's very good advice to tell the mind to shut up, because this is the
Yeah.
constant thing. Now I want to ask you a little bit serious, because your 10 commandments left such an impact, and you talked a lot about your life there, and you went through a tougher period. Now, how do you have those difficult conversations, even with children? Because sometimes we're so wanting to shield them. We don't want them to see the other side of our reality also. We just want to show them the happy side of life.
Yes, because that's how we have been brought up. Our parents were our heroes. My father's strongest. If you remember the campaign.
Yes.
Yeah, so it just comes from there that my father is the strongest, my mother is the perfect mother. They both can never do anything wrong, and that's how you grow up, and that's how more complexes come from within, because you feel anything but perfect. But I have these 2 perfect beings who I have not seen commit any mistake, and so there's something wrong with me, and I have complexes, and then I have issues with myself. I would not consider anything as right parenting or wrong parenting, but I would advocate a sort of parenting where you own up to your mistakes, that you come across as human beings, that parents can go wrong, because that's how your child will see that, okay, this person is good, but it has faltered, has failed, but has picked himself or herself up together again to fight out another day. They see that you have failed, but they also see you trying to revive yourself. I think that is a bigger lesson to impart to your children, rather than putting yourselves and hiding and having closeted conversations about your failures or whatever, and not including your children. So that's what I feel. I could be wrong, but that's the kind of parenting that I would advocate, where you admit to your mistakes and tell that I am just only human. Sorry, I did not pack your notebook, or sorry, I did not give your circular. Sorry, I didn't have the perfect tiffin for you. But here's what I can work towards, building a better future for us. I can work towards having a better day. I'm going to work. I'm not going to give up. So I think I really want my children to learn that, instead of just seeing success and glory and everything. I just want them to know the concept of picking yourself up together again, trying for yet another day. So that's what I want them to learn.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give it back to Mansi, and I'm waiting for the third book. So, we're going to be first in line.
Listen, I've become a pandemic author, so let's not hope for another lockdown, because every lockdown is like one book. So, abhi thoda break dete hain.
Thank you so much.
I'm saying, thank God it's a book and not a baby.
Oh, shut up! Oh, God.
Otherwise, we'll have one more mistake from you.
every lockdown. Oh gosh, no.
No,
This
but really,
to a baby only.
thank you for doing this. But I have to ask you, what is the sinner going to give up or work towards in 2022? We can't end without that.
Oh, I am going to really, I know how many times people make these New Year resolutions. And so I have not waited for 1st of Jan or 31st of December to make this resolution. I just read this lovely book. It's called Atomic Habits. And there's this one phrase that has left a very deep impression on me. And that's something which goes by that I'm the kind of person who shows up. So I just, if I don't feel like working out, I just say this line to myself: I'm the kind of person who shows up. I don't want to attend a meeting, I'm too tired. I just tell myself, I'm the kind of person who shows up. So for my lesson for 2022 is to really show up on things, at places, or that really I am lazy about, that I procrastinate, that I'm complacent about. Predominantly, it's got to do with workouts. So I'm just going to be the person who shows up even for 10 minutes of just cardio, but I'm not going to use it in an alibi, and I'm going to try to lose these cheeks, these Punjabi laddus that I have in my cheeks. I'm going to try. Let's see if I can.
I am sure James Clear is a best-selling author. He will drive you through 2022. And I'm so glad that we had this chat and with everyone. And and look forward to chatting with you again.
Yes, thank you so much, lovely ladies. Thank you. Yes,
Thank
let's hold our
you.
book.
Thank
Let's take
you.
a screenshot of it. Somebody can. Please hold your books. Yay. Andrea, where's yours? I'm not talking to you. What is this? Where is the book? Where is the book?
Let's take a picture.
Yeah, you just smile then. We have your lovely smile. Who's taking? Mansi, are you?
I'm
Shit,
taking a
tell me
picture.
nobody is.
I am.
I am.
Okay, Siddhi, thanks.
Okay, pose, guys. 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Thank you.
Thank
Siddhi.
you. That was
So much,
awesome.
Tyra.
Thank you. So lovely speaking to you all. Thank you.
Same here.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.